Good morning. Welcome to Wallace Hartley Presents. My name is Glen Lamont. I am a frontline worker here in Vancouver, British Columbia, in the midst of this little thing we like to call a pandemic. I know that sounds pretty brutal, right? How are we coping? How are we surviving? It is April 3rd, 7:29 in the morning, and my day is getting started at one of the facilities I work at. And I want to talk today a little bit about how things are changing daily, but also how things may change permanently for many of us. But first of all, just some day-to-day stuff. So the latest about wear a mask, don't wear a mask from our local health authority here. They're not saying don't. What they're saying is, I think what they've said all along is, if you're just going out and you're asymptomatic, don't wear a mask. If you are a health care worker and you work with vulnerable individuals and they may be infected, wear a mask to protect yourself. And if you are symptomatic, you wear a mask to protect others. And by the way, these are still in short supply for many of our healthcare workers and healthcare facilities. So, it's great to see that so many places have upped their game and started producing things like masks and things like hand sanitizer. So Vancouver is known for, lots of stuff. Not all of it good, in my opinion, but, and I'm not talking about, our natural beauty, our mountains and our ocean, but, so one thing we have a lot of is microbreweries, and I was really impressed to see that some of these breweries were changing their production to hand sanitizer, because essentially what are they producing? They're producing alcohol. So yeah, that was kind of nice to see. Other companies are trying to produce things that they normally wouldn't, like parts for ventilators or modifying ventilators. There are companies that are now producing cloth masks. So it's great, what I'm really seeing through all of this, and I'm trying very much to see the good rather than the bad. What I'm really seeing is people pulling together. And I really hope that's one change that is going to remain with us. So here's some stuff to think about. So as of yesterday, let me see. Of the 268,154 tested. There are 11,208 confirmed cases here in Canada, with 138 dead. And the reason I bring that up is, we're doing a lot better than our neighbors to the south with containing this, but not everybody is paying attention. And there's still a lot of people out there who are not practicing social distancing. You people hanging out in the parks know who I'm talking about. I see it when I'm driving on my way to and from work, mostly on my way home. And it's, it is younger people. And I'm not, believe it or not, I was young once, about 100 years ago. So I recognized that whole don't tell me what to do, screw authority, and I'm invincible. Well, that's all well and good, but here's the facts, right? If you think that it's not affecting young people, 29% of our cases here in Canada are people aged 20 to 39. 4% are under 19. So this means a third of our cases are people under 40 years of age. And yeah, that's really got to have an impact on you, because the reason that we're doing so much better than our neighbors to the south is because we've done a good job of getting in front of this and practicing social distancing and self-quarantine and all that stuff. So really stay in, unless you have to go to work. Stay in, don't make unnecessary trips. Don't go to the park if you see, 50 other people out running. Just run on the roads. You know what I mean? Just stay the hell away from each other. It's the only way we're going to contain this and get ahead. They expect, even when we do loosen the regulations and the guidelines a little bit, socially speaking, that we're going to get hit with a second wave. And the whole point of this is we don't want our healthcare facilities, our hospitals, overwhelmed. So they have already here in Vancouver, just as a precaution, right? They have taken the Vancouver Convention Center, which is massive, and they prepared that as overflow from the hospital, basically. So that is their contingency plan, and it's a good one. But that gives you an idea of the seriousness of all of this. And if you really want an eye-opener, just for fun, just for laughs, if you're stuck at home, self-isolating, just Google the management of mass fatalities, Canadian pandemic influenza preparedness. And their plan will come up. And you read that. And that's pretty sobering. Because when you think about if we do have mass fatalities, that's not something that's really happened here. I mean, we're facing unprecedented times, right? So imagine if there just wasn't any more room. So imagine a hockey rink at your local community center now being a morgue because it's refrigerated. Imagine commandeering reefer trucks that would normally be used to transport frozen food, and they're now portable morgues. So, I mean, that really is the gravity of this situation. If we don't keep doing what we're doing. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. And I'm still surprised. The government is doing a good job. They really are. They're pulling together. They got a great economic package to help people out. Not everyone is not perfect. They're still rolling out other things. But let's talk just for a moment about how society is going to be impacted by this down the road. How things are going to change for good, for the good of us and for good, forever. Because that is how serious all this stuff is. So, one thing I'm seeing is, so it's great. We have here in Vancouver, much like they do elsewhere in many cities, 7 o'clock every night, people out on their balconies giving a big shout out, a big round of applause, banging pots and pans, whistling and cheering for our healthcare and frontline and essential service workers, and that's great, and we like to see that. But how is, for example, social distancing going to impact us in the future? So we know that these diseases, these viruses are going to keep coming. There's probably going to be more pandemics. hopefully all the things that we're doing now, the actions that we're taking, are going to prepare us in the future. But if we continue to exploit our environment, there's going to be more contact with man and animals in the wild where these viruses have been coming from. And so there's going to be more. So is social distancing going to be, when everything calms down, are we going to never shake hands with somebody again? Are we going to maintain, that 2 meters, 6 feet apart whenever we're talking to folks? Are we going to do more and more things virtually, online, meetings? Kids are back in school right now, virtually, like online. They're rolling it out slowly, but they are rolling it out. And by the way, one other shout out I need to make is to teachers everywhere, teaching staff, assistants, all the people involved in that process. If you didn't think that they were doing an amazing job before, now that you're stuck at home with your kids, tell me that they aren't a really, really valuable part of our society, right? They work so hard, and they haven't been slacking this entire time, during spring break. They've been preparing for all this because they knew it was coming down the pipe, right? So, yeah, huge shout out. So that's one example of things that are virtual. People are turning to virtual counseling right now because there's a lot of stress out there. There's just a very palpable atmosphere, something just hanging there. You can see it. People are scared. People are uncertain, and they need help. So how is that going to look in the future? Not actually sitting in a room with your therapist, but talking to somebody through a screen, a monitor, a phone, whatever. I think we've proven one thing for sure. The CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and the people making 300,000 plus a year salaries and up, they're not the valuable players. We know that now. We have seen, what is essential in this time, and it's certainly not the hedge fund guys, and it's certainly not corporate lawyers, and it's none of that. Our whole system is moving away at this particular time from markets and profit. Governments everywhere are providing for people because they can't work, because they need them to stay home in order to stop this from getting worse. So that's changing, right? That move away from markets and profit. It's not about that anymore. It's about human beings and human lives and saving them. And so that is going to have a big impact, things like value exchange, all that stuff, right? Which is good. It's great to see. I think really when the dust settles, people are either going to try and go back to business as usual, which would be a horrible mistake, or we're going to see that there's a different way to do things. And that way involves putting people, individuals first, not profit, not corporations, not shareholders, none of that crap, right? We're good at this stuff. We're good at figuring it out, and I think we're doing a good job right now, So really, I think things are changing for the better. And I've seen some great creative stuff. I posted a thing on Facebook the other day that a local musician here in Vancouver, Al Foreman, and it was actually passed along to me by Dan Casfani, another amazing musician all part of the blues community here in Vancouver. And he did his little ode to the virus. You got to check it out. It's brilliant. I think it should be Canada's national pandemic anthem. Lots of creative stuff going on. I just heard from a friend of mine whose husband is at home. He can't work in the restaurant industry, and she's still working. But to cope with that, they've created an imaginary roommate named Susan, so that they can blame things on her. I think that's brilliant. I'm going to try that at home tonight. At the end of the day, we're going to get through this together. We're all working very hard. There's some brilliant minds out there doing some great things. And because of that, it's keeping people safe. But I love the fact that, that word people, that's become what's important. And so really putting us first and valuing lives over profit. Brilliant. Couldn't have asked for a better scenario, and I just hope that we stick to our guns and we stay inside, and maybe when this is all over we don't drive as much and we don't consume as much, because look, we've already seen what's happening with the environment getting better, like healing itself in such a rapid amount of time. So there's my little update for the morning. I love having these little chats with you guys. The YouTube channel is Wallace Hartley Presents, and we will have our video podcast coming real soon. So please look for that. Subscribe to the channel. That would be great. That would be really helpful, because we'd like to expand. We'd like to do a lot more with this. And I love talking to you guys. So stay home if you can. Stay safe. Be creative. And hang in there. Because, good stuff is coming down the road. Thanks.